All right. Well, again, thank you guys for doing the smoking section with me. This podcast is, it's been a huge project for me, and to be able to sit with you two and be able to do this is really humbling. So for everybody who's watching, this is Scott and Rene. They are two wonderful gentlemen who are coming to spread some words for you guys. If you guys would like to introduce yourself, we can start with you, Rene, and then we'll get to you next, Scott.
Okay. All right, cool. My name is Fernando Nicerros. I'm affiliated with Channel Islands 214, and I'm also part of Newport Mesa 604. I'm a tattoo artist by trade and a Mason by night.
And I'm Scott. Yeah, I'm Scott Nice. Originally from Northern California, moved down here about 10 years ago and transferred my membership from a lodge where I did all 3 degrees in Freemasonry up there many years ago. Moved down here and affiliated with Channel Islands Lodge, number 214 here in Ventura, California. And a few years after that, I was elected to be secretary of the lodge, did that for about 5 years. And I'm sitting elsewhere in other positions of the lodge now, but really enjoyed everything, and I've made some of the best friends of my life through Masonry, especially in this lodge.
Yes, shout out Channel Islands Lodge of California, and I was lucky enough to be able to meet you through Lodge 341, and so for people who might be watching and who watch later, listen later, we are specifically talking about Freemasonry. Lodge and the lodge numbers is kind of how people identify where they're at or where they're from. And so, as you guys already know, I'm super curious. Me and Scott have met a few months ago as I started coming around, and I'm extremely curious. I've paid my dues. I'm open about it. I'm extremely open about it. I've paid my dues, everything, and I'm trying to be one myself. So Scott, if you would like to go ahead and lead off, my big question, and I'm hoping one that people can kind of hear out is what brought especially you two to Freemasonry, and what because we all know the cloud that surrounds it, but what specifically brought you two guys into Freemasonry, and what keeps you there?
Cool, it's a good question. So many years ago, as a young child, we lived across the street from my dad's brother, my uncle and his wife and his kid. And my uncle used to throw a lot of parties, had a lot of social activities, met with friends that he made through business and this thing called lodge. And being as young as I was, I didn't really know what that was. It didn't matter to me even when I was younger. But my uncle was a very loving, wonderful, great, just very giving person. So, and everybody liked him. And I got to meet a lot of his buddies, who later I found out were lodge members. So I grew up with a lot of kind of extended friends through my uncle, through that. And unfortunately, of course, as years went on, my uncle passed away. And I knew he was a Shriner and a lodge member, a Freemason. And he was very popular and very well liked in that community. And I thought I'd check out the potential for some sort of family legacy, say, through this. So I emailed the Grand Lodge of California and just said, hey, I'm interested. Here's my uncle's name, and I'm his nephew. And if somebody could write me back or talk to me sometime, tell me more about it. Sent off the email, forgot about it for, I don't know, I'm kind of guessing, maybe a couple months. And one day I was sitting home alone. My kids were in school. And I heard this knock on the door. I'm like, nobody ever knocks on my door in the late morning. Who could that be? Anyway, so answered the door, and here's this cute little old man, skinny, standing there with this file folder underneath his arm, and I thought maybe he was trying to sell something, or maybe even lost. And I said, can I help you? And he told me his name, and he said, I'm one of your uncle's good friends through Lodge, and we hear that you want to become a member. And I was really surprised on this kind of cold call. I didn't think that's how it would happen at all. So total sincere surprise. Anyhow, I said something probably off color, and I said, no shit. And he goes, little old man was like a little put off by that, but then he smiled And he says, you know what? I'm like, what? He's like, we've been waiting for you. And I went, get the fuck out of here. And he laughed again. Anyhow, so he's like, no, I'm serious. Your uncle and I go back about 40 years. And I've been there through him and supported him in his journey in Freemasonry. And he's done the same for me. We've been Shriners together. And he went on a little bit of an explanation at my doorstep, and I invited him in. So as he's sitting there, I thought I'd more or less get the info about what it takes to become a member. But he really wasn't kidding. They'd been waiting for me for some reason. And I didn't know what that meant. And I think it had to do simply locally from where I lived. I was one of the only other male family members in the county. And Freemasonry likes to extend a sense of familyhood with their kids, their wives, their extended family. And I kind of got the feeling that they were hoping that someone else from my uncle's side of the family may join. So when I sent that email, like I said months earlier, it was nice to know that they took it seriously. And they're very curious about me. And while they're being polite and saying, we've been waiting for you, I think it kind of meant something deeper for even my uncle's lodge brothers to know that one of his nephews was interested. So it was very humbling, and it felt good. So Gene was his name, who showed up at my house. He sat down in my chair and started interviewing me for the process, and he had the application. So I filled it out, and about a month later, I was given another letter that came in the mail saying they've accepted my application and voted on my membership, and I'm allowed to become a Freemason, to be initiated, as we call it, if I'm still interested, because it's always up to you. They don't solicit anything. They don't go out and ask you to become one. You've got to come from your own free will and accord, as we say. So, of course, I called the secretary of my uncle's lodge, and then I said, yes, I'm very interested, and what do I do now? He said, dress up nice on this night, come at this time. Please come alone, because it's your initiation. So I did. So when I showed up that night, I dressed in a nice suit. Excuse me, it's the beer. Cheers.
Cheers.
Showed up that night and went through the process. And at one point of being initiated, one thing, you can't see what's going on around you, so you have to rely on other senses, the other senses out of your, you're just blinded, in other words, or hoodwinked, as we call it. Anyway, I was beginning to hear somebody else's voice as they're approaching me and started telling me things. And I'm like, I know this voice. I know this voice. He had a very distinct voice. Anyway, he went on his role of the ceremony, and at one point my blindfold comes off, and the person who's the master that night initiating me used to be my Little League coach. So wow. It was really cool, and I haven't seen him since I was a young boy, and I didn't get initiated into Masonry until my 30s, so I haven't seen him in almost 2 decades, right? So that was really cool too. And then after the whole ceremony, my initiation, other fellows came to me in the dining room afterwards and congratulated me and started telling me these really sweet stories. They had memories of my uncle and his wife, my aunt, and my cousin, his son, and my mom and my dad, who knew my uncle through, or knew my parents through my uncle. And it just felt like I was in some way home, or at least very deeply accepted. It's very personal for me. And not everybody has that experience entering Freemasonry. So I felt blessed. And I wanted to share that with other people, meaning the experience you have when you come through Lodge and you're first initiated. I'd really like the new initiates to feel like they're welcome, they're family, we trust them, you're one of us, not that you're separate from anything else in life, but you're a member of our Lodge. And I think that's very important for someone to say, you know, I've spent this money, dedicated this time, and I'm going to do something that I've never done before. So when it's done and you're offered this sense of friendship, it really means a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And I have definitely, I mean, even showing up to Oxnard and, you know, even though your home lodge is Channel Islands, you know, I met you in Oxnard, and even just meeting you and some of the guys from over there, I feel welcomed even by them, and definitely by like Mark and all the guys there right there in Oxnard. And I don't know, like it's been a weird feeling welcomed amongst other men who are, they're strangers to you at first, but then you start to get to know them, and then you get to know them and you realize, like, man, you guys are like, for lack of better words, like, it's just fucking really rad dudes. You guys are a bunch of really rad guys. Like, you're really chill and honest and keep promises. You know what I mean? But that's cool. That's and Rene. And how about for yourself? What was your journey like, and how did you get started into the journey of Freemasonry?
So I'm 41. How old are you, Scott?
I'm 53.
So we're like a decade apart. So there's like a lot happened. Not joking. I always tell people, and it's funny that my first approach to any Freemasonry is I'm a first Freemason in my family in the United States. I have family in Mexico that are Freemasons. So growing up, I would always see the symbols. Never really caught my eye too much until I saw the Simpsons episode of the Stonecutters. And then I got interested in it, from that point where I was asking, my grandfather and my uncles that they were Masons. I'm like, yo, like, what's up with this? And like, oh, we'll tell you about it when you're older. So fast forward a few, years, my grandmother died, and my uncle that was there, and he had a ring, and I'm like, yo, I'm really interested now about your ring, and he's all like, well, tell me where you live, and then, or what lodges are there, and I'll write them a letter. So we wrote them a letter, sent it in, and then kind of almost like Scott, like, I got somebody responding to me, and then I went in, I met him, and it was good. I felt at home, like, immediately. There's like two brothers right away that are really opening. I first was scared because I'm heavily tattooed. I don't know if you can tell, but I was always like freaking out because in Mexico it's a little bit different than the United States, and I kind of always had this preconception that, like, you had to be like non-tattooed, non-threatening looking. And the first day I get there, I meet my brother Aaron, and that guy was fully covered in tattoos. And he was super nice. He was really welcoming. He started talking to me, and then we found out that we have a lot of the same love in hip hop and punk, and I was, it was a beautiful thing. Like, I felt at home. Fast forward a few years later, I ended up moving to where I'm at now in Ventura County, and my wife at the time, she was my girlfriend, had posted a picture of me, and my ring was showing. And Mark from your lodge had commented, "Oh, your man has a cool ring." So I ended up talking to Mark, and he's all like, "Bro, we're gonna go see the Dead Kennedys, which is a punk band." And I'm like, "Bro, I'm going to the same concert." So we ended up hanging out, and that's how I met Brother Ryan, Rodrigo, Mark, and it felt like we were just good friends for a long time. And through this journey, like, I've met a lot of like-minded people that aren't necessarily, I love Scott because he's like super clean cut, and I'm not. He holds up well. He holds up really well. But seeing that diversity, and that we have, I love this man to death. Like, we're best friends, brothers. So it feels good to belong to something that's that strong. Where we don't see color lines. We accept you even if you're different. That makes, I think, Masonry more beautiful, is that we all come in all shapes, sizes, colors, creeds. And being a tattoo artist also, I started meeting more and more tattoo artists that were also Freemasons, because our crafts kind of have a lot of the same things. Like, you're an apprentice, you're a fellow craft, and then you're a master tattoo artist also. So it resonates a lot, not just necessarily in Freemasonry, but it's in all aspects of my life. It comes fruition in its full circle. And, like, it's nice seeing a lot of the younger crowd. I don't know, how old are you?
I'm 28.
See, that's awesome, man. It's like, we want to make sure that this legacy continues, and bringing, young people like yourself that have a preconception of what it is, and then you meet people like me and Scott and Ryan, and it's they're like, oh my God, I never thought it was going to be like that. I'm like, well, it is. So.
Yeah, because really, even for myself, like, I remember the first day walking. This was like had to be right before COVID, so about 2.5 years ago, when I first walked through the door. Francis was master of Oxnard, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And I remember he asked us, he's like, so what brought you guys here? Because I know you guys saw the YouTube videos. I was like, yeah, dude, I have. I've seen all of them. Like, I know I've seen all of them at least 3 times. Like, Jesus Christ. But it was like, I am curious. I am curious about what goes on here. Like, people don't get into punk music or heavy metal because there's a preconceived notion of what that is. But it's like, dude, it's really tight music if you listen to it. Like, you want to work out, bro, this is the perfect music, So why not go to a place where, supposedly these are high-level individuals, people who help other people become better, but they're a secret society type of thing. Like, why not go there? Why not go check it out, dude? See what's really going on. And then when I met Mark and I met matter of fact, Levi was petitioning at the same time as I was,
Right.
And it was cool. It was cool to see normal people. Like, they're normal.
Yeah.
They're not like, no, dude, we don't burn steaks here at this place, bro. Like, we sit around and talk. At least for me and the guys outside the doors, we sit around and talk and bullshit and learn about each other. You learn about their daughter, or my son and my stuff going on with my son, or the stuff that they have with their baseball team or their clothing business or whatever they're doing. It's been cool. It's been cool to be around it all. And so let me bounce back over to you, Scott. So what would you say is something that, because you've been dedicated for so long, like what would you consider to be those driving factors to keep you going, to keep you active in the brotherhood? Because there's people who aren't as active as Freemasons that I've realized. They're not as active, but what keeps you active? What keeps you showing up?
The friendships, and they're super solid. Anybody who researches Masonry at all online or has seen certain, television shows or movies knows that we go through these ceremonies, right? They've seen the depictions of those on shows or the YouTube videos, like I said. And during that process, we make obligations. Okay, so as an initiate, I make an obligation. And those obligations, the other people who are already members have made too. And as I'm deciding these things, you're told that everybody goes through this. And these are really cool promises you make, not only to the other brothers, but to yourself, to your family, to your friends, and to the world. They're very high in morals and values. And it was true. I mean, these aren't empty promises. These are people that you can trust. Now, before being a Freemason, I had lots of friends, high school, outside of school, coworkers, great people. But we never promised these things to each other, And I can rely on Rene or Ryan, who's sitting off screen here, or anybody else here that I'm tight with in this lodge, to care for me if something happens to me, to care for my children, my parents. They'll watch over my finances. They'll wash my car, anything. They'll take care of my pets because we love one another. And we've made these promises, and they're real. Who wouldn't come back to that and stay active? I mean, there's certain things that take men away from Masonry. That could be their own personal family emergencies. That could be work. That could be education. That could be relocating out of the area. That's fine. But we still hold those promises sacred no matter where they are. If they called and needed something, we're there as much as we can. That's what keeps me coming back.
And
Rene, what about yourself?
Yeah, man, just the brotherhood. It's phenomenal, We've all gone through our ups and downs, and one time, like my lowest point was, I was getting divorced, nasty custody battle, and I didn't go to lodge for a while, and then I would start having brothers message me like, "Bro, are you okay?" And I'm like, I really don't want to talk about it. And then they started showing up and then trying to cheer me up. And, like I had family members that didn't even do that. You know what I mean? So it started meaning a lot more. And then, like Scott says, like we have the saying, like our brother's keeper. And, we look out for each other. Like I have a clothesline company that's all Masonic affiliate, like Masonic, inspired stuff. And I got brothers from all over the country, like buy my stuff, and like we talk, and then it's like we're best friends. Like it's a best friend that I've never met. Like I'm pretty sure me and you will have a lot more in common than you think. And that to me is like amazing, dude. Just like one funny example is like I go to Disneyland a lot. When me and my wife used to have passes, we used to go, and then I would wear a hat or a pin, and then some brother would come up and talk to me, and then like my wife's like, "You know him?" I'm like, "No," but we're brothers, and
Right.
we've all done the same rituals to become a rat, so we already have that in common. And another thing too is pretty cool is like, I tell my wife, I'm like, everything that George Washington did to become a Freemason, I had to do. And like there's that connection, there's like that little thread, that keeps us all together. And knowing that you've gone through the same thing that I think brings a bond that makes me want to keep coming back. At some times, like any family, we have disagreements, but I think that we're all grown men and we're all learn how to discuss it, and overcome it and come out even stronger sometimes. You know what I mean? And that's a beautiful thing. Scott didn't go this year, but we went to San Francisco and we met brothers that we've never met, and we just threw all mine, and then greatest bond, greatest time, created some great memories, and now we're like hanging out all the time. So I think to me that's what keeps me coming back, and just it's amazing. You know what I mean? Like Scott said, I have plenty of friends, but none of us have made that oath, and like we feel safe. You know what I mean? Like I could leave my kids with anyone. Like if I had some problems, I could call them. Like, yo, dude, like my car broke down. Can you come help me? And like without a doubt, they'd show up, and I'd do the same.
Yep.
So it's pretty much like a gang. We're a gang. We just don't stab or do drive-bys, right?
There was a thing of being your brother's keeper. Now that is one, and then also saying like being able to leave your kids with these people, like you know what I mean, like they're and the way that you address it is like your brothers. You can leave I can leave my kids with my brothers right here. Like that takes a lot for me. Like I'm a single dad, the whole crazy, the whole five, and I bring my son around Lodge, and he'll sit down and eat and hang out and run around and play, and everybody who knows me knows I don't bring my son nowhere. Like if I can't go there, if I shouldn't be there, my son's not going to be there. So when I bring him there and I feel safe, and he runs around and he's playing with other kids that show up sometimes, or he's eating dinner, and I can see that the camaraderie that can keep you coming back, and the idea of tradition, that's been the biggest thing for me is there's a tradition here, there's a certain process. You gotta make your bones, man. You gotta make your bones. You gotta put in your time, put in your effort, and get close.
Good.
Yeah, there's some dudes, not gonna lie, they're just clout chasers and going for that status, but then there's people like us that we're diehard. I have two boys, dude. They're 13 and 14, and I want to have the best example for them. And if they're not gonna get it from me, they'll get it from one of my brothers. And we were actually just talking about this for dinner. Like, if anything happens to me, like, I want you to like. I know that they'll be there for my boys to help them along the way. So that's super rad, dude. That's like, it's not to sound corny, but that's beautiful, man. Like that power that this has, and it's taken a lot.
And I've got 3 daughters, and they love coming to Lodge. They love all my friends. I can leave them here. If I had to come to Lodge and bring them, I'm a single dad too, right? But if I had to leave for some reason for a couple hours and they couldn't come with me, I know they'd be in great hands. I could leave my wallet full of money on a table inside my lodge. When I came back, every single dollar would be there.
And I've done that. I've left my, we're eating dinner together and my wallet's out, my phone's out, and it's right here on the table, dude. I'm not even tripping. It's like, I'm not even a member yet. It's right. I'm just here hanging out, dude. But I feel that I can feel it off of everybody. There's no ill will towards each other. And there was something like of Rene, you said it. It's like we're all men here, like we can work this out, bro. Like if we have some kind of disagreement or something, like we can work it out. Like, dude, you don't have to steal from me, bro. You can just ask me for it.
Yeah,
right.
You know, you don't have to steal from me, dude. Just ask me for the $10, bro. I'll give it to you, bro. Like, it's not that big of a deal.
And it's real, dude. Like it's when we go out to restaurants or we're out drinking, we all fighting for the check. Like, no, man, I'll pay.
Right.
No, I'll pay. So it's cool, man. Like, it's a beautiful thing, man. It gets me in the heart.
Yesterday, I had to go help a brother who got in a little fender bender. So I had to pick him up and take him to his car where it was left while he waited for a tow truck, right? So the tow truck comes, we're talking and laughing over his little fender bender and this and that, having a good time, making the best of it. Anyhow, he gets back in my car. I've got to drive him someplace else, and I needed gas. So I go up to the gas station, slide my card, and that account was almost overdrawn. I only had a few dollars in there. And I didn't have the time to call my bank to transfer it from one account to another, okay? It just wasn't convenient to do that. I needed to get him on his way. So I'm like, crap. I'm feeling a little embarrassed, but my brother's sitting shotgun. I'm going to ask him if he's got any cash. I'm like, hey, brother, sorry, my card's almost overdrawn. I haven't got the time to call and transfer. Got any money I could borrow for gas? Pulls out 20 and says, keep it. I'm like, right? Where does that happen? Where can you rely on that in life? Very few places. Very few.
That generosity, the generosity and the selflessness to be able to help somebody out like that.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's a quick story.
And one thing I definitely want to ask, because it's, I don't know. It's especially because I've seen some people get initiated now, and that look on their face, like the look, they come out and you're like, oh shit, dude, what's up, bro? Like, yo, you did it. Like, oh my God. Like, I've seen somebody who I was petitioning with, they walked on the other side. They made their bones. They got it. Like, and so I know now for him, that's probably his fondest memory of Masonry. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like joining the Brotherhood, somebody who he was, people who he's grown up with as a part of this lodge. It's a tender moment. Well, I'll start with you, Scott. Like, what would you consider to be maybe your favorite moment of Masonry? So far, we'll say so far.
Wow. To nail down one as a favorite would be really difficult. I can tell you about my initiation some more. Kind of like going off what you said. When I came out, I felt great. And when the men came around to congratulate me, introduce themselves, tell me about how they knew my family member, a couple of them said, you'll only be initiated into Freemasonry once in your life. You never have to go through it again, right? And he said, there's a lot of practice that goes on with the members to get ready for anybody's initiation. We put in a lot of effort, study, and practice going through this ceremony. It's kind of like role playing, okay? So they put on an act, so to speak. And you're the observer, and sometimes you're involved. And you have to play this role, and they have to play their roles, and they nail it. And when they nail it, not only are they happy that I gave a good ceremony for you, because it left you with the proper impressions about what this really means, they're congratulating themselves around me too. Hey, remember when I said this? I really nailed it this time from the practice. Or remember when I walked this way? I really did well. And it makes an impression on you that they love what they do, and they really want to offer that and spread that to future generations so that they will hopefully pass that on. That is impressive. That's love and intent and hopeful wishes for the new candidate, and it's also support for each other while they go through this together to put it on for me or anybody else who goes through. That's impressive. I don't remember seeing that in high school acting classes or anything like that. It may have happened, but it seemed different. So, and then that was the first degree, right? And I went through the second degree, and it is a beautiful degree. Each degree that you go through, and as people may know, there's 3 degrees in Masonry. The first is the initiation, and then after that, you become a fellowcraft, and there's an initiation for that. And it's a lot of history in that. Excuse me. And then the last one, when you're made a Master Mason, it's the most involved and longest ceremony somebody could probably ever go through. Okay. And there's a lot of involvement. There's a lot to memorize. You got to know your footwork. You got to know all these things. And then when you're done with that and you feel like you've accomplished this great thing, because there's no more degrees to do, you've reached it, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's why it's one of the most important ones. They're all equally important. But when you're a Master Mason, you're done. Then you can do anything in Lodge. You can vote on things that new legislation that may come up with anything regarding Lodge and its functions. You can make proposals. You can start joining the officers line and start giving back to your Lodge and its members or the new members who may come through. It's just full of opportunity. So I really am impressed with each and every degree and the work that goes on before you show up. It's just phenomenal. So my favorite part is being the candidate.
Yeah, that's gotta be. I mean, for a lot of people, you know, when I'm listening, and for a lot of people, like I always feel like either it's always like the beginning of something is usually like a good tender spot for them. You know, it's because it's the start of something new, or it's the start of a, you know, like the next journey or something.
It
And
is.
and Rene, how about yourself? What would you consider one of your favorite moments from Masonry?
I think it's just the recognition my kids gave me, you know, like that they saw me go through a change. You know, I was a single dad too, you know, to two boys. And like I keep touching upon that subject where like these two kids are watching me. I gotta make sure I'm a good role model for them because I want them to be a good, you know, husband, a good worker. Like I want them. You know, it's a reflection of me how they grow up. And you know, we have a saying is that making good men better, and it's definitely helping me achieve that goal.
And changing the world to be a better place, one man at a time.
Mm-hmm. And you know, and even thinking, you know, I have a son. I have a son, so it hits. That's, you know, if I could bring him to a place, if I can bring him around other men who can not only ensure, you know, to make him better, but to make his dad better. You know, because even if he never chose the life of Freemasonry, if he never chose to even acknowledge it, at least I know there'll be a watchful eye. You know, one, and then two, his dad will be better. I could always be a better dad, always be a better, you know, a better me for him, which still works out either way it goes. So it's a win-win situation, you know. So why not? Um, and so, and quickly, you know, how did you guys first cross paths, and how did that all get started?
Just hanging out with the Chow Island boys. Scott was part of it.
I was secretary at the time, I think.
And yeah, man, like I think like we met and then like we went to San Francisco for communication. And we were stuck in the car for we got to know each other pretty good.
We did.
So it was fun.
The Grand Communication is really fun. And that's where any Master Mason through any lodge in the state of California can come to have their one time a year meeting. And they go through new rules or things like that. It's a huge business meeting. And it lasts for basically a weekend. And the business meeting is fine. Then afterwards, all these brothers are walking the streets of San Francisco. And you'll go into a restaurant or a bar or a hotel lobby room. There's all these guys you recognize from the meeting, or somebody's wearing a Masonic shirt, and we all are really cool to each other. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's got to be one of the things I'm most excited for. Like just being able to, you know, go out and about. Because even the time I've been hanging out in Oxnard, I've gotten to meet people from Channel Islands, and it's exciting just thinking like, yo, I could walk the streets and literally bump into one of these guys right now, like and have a party. Like, yo, what's up, dude? Like I'm with my family now, you know. Or so just to even think that you guys have done this for so long and have done this at such levels, like that's really cool to hear, to be able to just walk in the streets of San Francisco, you know, with a bunch of people and be like, hey, what up, dude? Like, what's cracking? Where you from? You know, we're all brothers here.
Yep, I've bumped into brothers who work in casinos in Vegas. They'd come up to me, I'd wearing a Shriner's jacket, right? And they say hi, and shake your hand, and introduce themselves. We both tell stories about, you know, the lodge, where we're from. And in Vegas, this one guy, He's like, that bank over there. He was a mechanic for slot machines. He's like, we just fixed all those over there. They got updated. Go check them out. I was like, that's awesome. You get tips for gambling.
Wow. Oh man. Guys, I'm having to pack this up. I don't know if you guys can see. I got the news playing right here, and we got a storm rolling in. So it's there's
right.
even like a whole tornado thing going on. But before we even do that, before the world ends, I want to say first and foremost, thank you guys for coming on the show. Scott, I admire you so much already, and Rene, hearing your story and hearing about how you're doing this for your kids is admirable, to say the least. And I hope we get to have more chats, dude. And while I'm out here in Florida, that's why the weather's shit. I'm out here in Florida, but
where in Florida are you?
I hope we can maybe have another conversation even before I get home, dude, and do this all again when I get back to Cali.
Yeah, where in Florida are you?
I'm in Pensacola. Florida right now. So, dude, shout out to both of you guys. Is there anything that you guys would like to say before we sign off for the evening?
Thanks for having us on.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Look forward to meeting you in person now. We get out here, let me know.
Get home safe.
Travel safe.
Yeah, they're just saying for us to get ready for some nasty weather. So I'd hate for me to lose signal and lose this conversation, dude. So I definitely want to make sure I save it and lock it in.
All right.
We'll get a part 2 soon. Scott, I'll give you a text. Again, Rene, thank you, brother, and I hope to see you on the other side of the doors one day, man.
Yeah, cool, for sure, brother.
Peace.
All right, you guys.
Later.